I came home 3 days early. The house was quiet, too quiet. My wife was smiling. The maid looked pale. And on the kitchen counter, a phone that didn't belong to anyone in my family. That one phone changed everything I thought I knew about my life. If you've ever trusted the wrong person, stay until the end, because what happened next will shake you. And if this story hits different, smash that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming. People always ask me the same question. Raymond, what does it feel like to have everything? I used to smile, straighten my tie, and say, it feels earned. And I believed that. God, I believe that with every bone in my body. My name is Raymond Cole, and before everything fell apart, before the arrests, the frozen accounts, the silence that swallowed my house whole, I was what the world calls a success story. I grew up in a 2-room apartment in Detroit. My mother worked double shifts at a laundromat. My father left when I was 9, didn't even take his coat. Just walked out into a Tuesday morning and never came back. I remember standing at the window, watching him go, thinking, I will never be that. I will never leave someone with nothing. That pain became my fuel. By 22, I had my first startup. By 30, my first million. By 41, I was worth more than I could ever spend in 3 lifetimes. I had a sprawling estate outside of Chicago, gates that opened with a whisper. Marble floors that click beneath your shoes like quiet applause. And I had Diana. We met in a university library. She was reading Fitzgerald. I was pretending to. She laughed at something I said, and I thought, that's it. That's the sound I want to hear for the rest of my life. We built everything together, or so I thought. At home we had a small, trusted staff, a gardener named Horace, a driver, old Benny, and Petra, our live-in maid of 6 quiet, faithful years. Life felt airtight. But here's what nobody tells you about a perfect life. The cracks don't make noise, they just grow. The Singapore deal closed on a Wednesday, 3 days ahead of schedule. My team was celebrating in the hotel lobby. Champagne, handshakes, the whole performance. I smiled through all of it, but the moment I got back to my room and sat on the edge of that hotel bed, I just felt tired. Not the good kind of tired. Not the tired that comes after honest work. It was the kind of tired that lives behind your eyes. The kind that whispers, you've been running so long, you forgot what you were running toward. I called Diana. No answer. I told myself she was sleeping. It was late in Chicago. I booked the first available private flight home and didn't tell a soul. I wanted to surprise her. I remember smiling at that thought, like a boy who still believed in small, sweet moments. I bought her favorite chocolates at the airport, wrapped in that gold foil she always liked. We landed past midnight. I told Benny not to come, took a car myself. Pulled up to the gates of my own home like a stranger. The house was lit softly from inside, music drifting through the walls, low, slow, something almost romantic. I stood at the door for a moment. Something felt different. I couldn't name it, just a coldness that moved from my stomach to my chest. I entered through the side door, old habit from a childhood where the front door meant trouble. Front door meant trouble. And there she was, Diana. Laughing, relaxed in a way she hadn't been with me in years. Across from her, a man I had never seen. The chocolates in my hand suddenly felt very, very heavy. I should have stayed in Singapore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my side of the bed, that enormous, expensive bed, and stared at the ceiling while Diana slept peacefully beside me. Her breathing was calm, steady, like a woman with no weight on her chest. I kept thinking about that man's face, the way he stood up too quickly when he saw me, the way his eyes darted to Diana before they found mine. People only move like that when they've been caught inside something they shouldn't be in. Morning came slow and gray. Diana left early for her yoga class, kissed my cheek at the door, lips cold as a formality. The moment her car disappeared through the gates, I walked to the kitchen. Petra was there, back turned, washing dishes with the kind of focus that wasn't really about the dishes. I noticed her hands first. They were shaking. Petra never shook. In 6 years, I had seen this woman carry hot soup through a crowded dinner party without spilling a single drop. But that morning, her hands trembled against the porcelain like she was standing in a storm only she could feel. I pulled out a chair at the kitchen table, sat down slowly. Petra. She didn't turn around. Petra, sit with me. A long pause. Then she dried her hands, folded the cloth with painful neatness, and sat across from me like someone preparing to confess something that had been rotting inside them for months. I spoke gently, told her she was safe, that whatever she knew, she could tell me. Her eyes filled. She looked at me like I was the first person in years who had spoken to her like she mattered. That look broke something in me before she even said a word. She told me his name first, Colt Renner. Said it quietly, like even speaking it out loud carried some kind of danger. I didn't recognize the name, and somehow that made it worse, because the man sitting across from my wife in my home, drinking my wine, laughing in my light, wasn't even someone significant enough for me to have crossed paths with. I assumed the worst. I think any husband would. I leaned forward, jaw tight, heart already fracturing along lines I didn't know existed. But Petra shook her head slowly. Sir, it's not what you think. It's worse. Those 5 words. I still hear them sometimes. Late at night when the house is too quiet. Colt Renner was not Diana's lover. He was her financial partner. For 8 months. 8 months while I kissed her goodbye at airports. While I worked 18-hour days building something I thought belonged to both of us. Diana had been quietly, methodically dismantling everything. Shell companies, forged signatures, wire transfers routed through 3 different countries, nearly $47 million, already moved, already gone. Petra had heard the phone calls, seen the documents spread across the dining table late at night. She had photographed pages with her old cracked phone, that small, forgotten phone on the kitchen counter that I had walked right past. I asked her why she waited, why she didn't come to me sooner. She folded her hands in her lap, looked down. The last time I told someone a secret, it was my mother. I was 14. She sold me to a trafficker the next morning. The kitchen went completely silent. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Here was this woman who had every reason to trust no one, choosing to trust me. And I realized she wasn't just saving my empire. She was surviving her own story at the same time. I learned something about myself that day. When real pain hits, I don't scream. I don't break dishes. I don't collapse onto the floor the way they show in movies. I go very, very quiet. I thanked Petra, told her to continue her day normally, act like nothing had changed. She nodded once, the nod of someone who had survived worse silences than this. I walked to my study, closed the door, sat in my father's old chair, the one thing I kept from Detroit, the one thing that still smelled like the life I fought so hard to escape, and I just sat there. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, something cold and focused settled in my chest, like a door closing somewhere deep inside me. I called my private attorney first, then my forensic accountant. Both meetings arranged off estate, a coffee shop, a parking garage, places Diana would never think to look. Over the next 2 days, I worked in silence. Petra passed me documents folded inside grocery receipts. We never spoke directly about it inside the house. We had developed a quiet language, a glance, a pause, a certain way she placed my morning coffee that meant, I have something new. She had saved everything, every photograph, every overheard date and amount. 6 months of evidence collected by a woman who cleaned my floors and apparently protected my future. I told Diana I was leaving again. 4 more days. She smiled. That smile. I had loved that smile once. Waited for it across dinner tables and airport arrivals. Now it landed on me like a cold hand. She smiled like a woman who had already won. She had no idea I was already standing at the finish line. I left the estate at 7 in the morning, kissed Diana on the cheek, picked up my travel bag, told old Benny to take me to the airport. We drove exactly 4 miles. Then I had Benny drop me at my attorney's office instead. I sat in that office with a cup of cold coffee and a live feed on a laptop screen, and I watched. By 9 that morning, Colt attempted the final transfer, the one that was supposed to complete everything, the one Diana had been building toward for 8 quiet, patient, devastating months. It bounced. Every account. Frozen. I watched Colt's number light up Diana's phone on the monitoring report. Once, twice, 7 times in 20 minutes. I could imagine his voice on the other end, panicked, unraveling, the carefully constructed plan suddenly collapsing like wet paper. Diana called him back from the garden. She didn't know we were listening. She spoke in a low voice, controlled at first. Then I heard something I had never heard from her in 17 years of marriage. Fear. Raw, real, undignified fear. By noon, 2 police vehicles pulled through my estate gates. Diana was arrested in the living room, still wearing her silk robe, still holding her morning coffee like the world had no right to interrupt her. Colt was picked up at O'Hare Airport, luggage checked, boarding pass printed, running like a man who always planned to disappear. I watched it all through that screen. My attorney put his hand on my shoulder. I didn't move. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel relief. I felt the strange, hollow quiet of a man who just survived something that should have destroyed him, and wasn't sure yet if it had. I returned to the estate that evening. The police had gone. The house was still. That specific kind of stillness that follows. Something irreversible, like the air itself was holding its breath. I walked through the front door for the first time in days, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Everything looked the same. Same marble floors, same high ceilings, same paintings on the walls, but nothing was the same, and we both knew it. I found Petra in the kitchen. She was sitting very straight in her chair, hands folded neatly in her lap, her one small bag packed and placed beside her feet, worn edges, broken zipper, the kind of bag that had survived many sudden departures. She had already packed. She was waiting to be dismissed. That image, that single image of her sitting there with her little bag, back straight, eyes forward, preparing herself for another abandonment. It hit me somewhere so deep I had to stop walking. She looked up when she heard my footsteps. "I can leave tonight, sir. I won't cause any trouble." I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down slowly. "Petra, put the bag down." She blinked, confused, like kindness was a language she had never quite learned to trust. I told her about the foundation, a private foundation for trafficking survivors, something I had been quietly drafting with my attorney between court filings and frozen accounts. I told her I wanted her to lead the outreach program, that I would fund her education, anywhere, anything, whatever she chose. She stared at me for a long time. Didn't speak. Then her chin trembled, just slightly, and she nodded, slow and deep, like someone finally remembering they were allowed to take up space in this world. Some nights I still sit in my father's old chair, the one that smells like Detroit, like struggle, like a 9-year-old boy watching someone walk away and silently promising himself he would build something unbreakable. I built it, and then I watched someone I loved try to quietly bury it. Diana received 6 years. The judge read the charges in a flat, procedural voice. Fraud, conspiracy, forgery. 17 years of marriage reduced to 3 legal words. I sat in that courtroom and felt nothing I expected to feel. No satisfaction, no anger, just a profound, exhausting sadness. Colt cooperated with prosecutors, received a reduced sentence. Last I heard, he was living in a small town somewhere, teaching accounting at a community college. Even betrayal has a mundane ending. I restructured the company completely. New board, new protections, new walls built not from distrust, but from hard, expensive wisdom. And Petra, she enrolled in social work, top of her class. She now runs the Foundation's outreach program across 4 cities, connecting survivors to legal aid, housing, and counseling. She speaks at conferences, stands at podiums, uses her voice in rooms where people actually listen. Sometimes I see her laugh in the foundation office, a real laugh, unguarded and free. And I think about that trembling woman washing dishes on a gray morning, carrying a secret that was never hers to carry alone. She saved me, and somehow I got to watch her save herself. Money can be rebuilt. Trust leaves a different kind of scar. The most loyal person in my house was never the one with my last name. I came home 3 days early, and somehow that saved everything. Before I go, I want to say something. Not as Raymond Cole, not as a billionaire who almost lost everything. Just as a man who learned the hardest lesson of his life inside his own home. We spend so much of our lives chasing things, money, status, the kind of success that looks impressive from the outside. We build walls around ourselves, tall, expensive, polished walls, and we call it security. But walls don't protect you from the people already standing inside them. I came home too soon that night, and for weeks after, I asked myself why. Why did the deal close early? Why did I choose that flight? Why did I walk through the side door instead of the front? I don't believe in accidents anymore. I believe some things happen exactly when they are supposed to, not to break you, but to show you what was already broken. And more importantly, to show you who was quietly standing beside you, holding the pieces, waiting for you to be ready to see them. Petra never asked for anything, not recognition, not reward, not even a simple thank you. She just did what good people do. She told the truth when it was dangerous, stayed loyal when it cost her something, and packed her little bag quietly when she assumed the world would once again ask her to leave. The world didn't ask her to leave this time, and I hope, wherever you are right now, someone in your life sees you the way I finally saw Petra, fully, honestly, without conditions. You deserve that. If this story touched something real inside you, please take 1 second and hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that loyalty still exists in this world. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because every week I bring you stories like this one. Stories pulled from the deepest, most human corners of life. Stories that remind us, no matter how much we lose, there is always something worth rebuilding for. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, and take care of the people who quietly take care of you.